Chronic illness and university or college or junior college or community college or anything beyond high school where we're adult learners. How does it impact our mental health? How does it impact chronic illness? And how do we live through it? Hey you guys, welcome back. A few of you have sent me messages asking me to talk about chronic illness and college and maybe some tips or tricks or information about that. So I thought I would take a little bit of time now that the new semester is in full swing and people are going back to school and maybe finding it challenging to manage. I thought I would address it, so let's get right into it. I am Kristen, for those of you who don't know, if you're new to my channel, hello. And I am a licensed professional counselor. I am a therapist, but I am not your therapist. So everything I say here is my opinion, my beliefs, my experience, or from clinical practice, but not necessarily advice for you to follow unless it is helpful for you or you find it appropriate for your situation. So I'm not here to diagnose anyone, and I'm not here to tell you what's wrong with you. I don't know. This is not me telling you as a professional what you should be doing. This is just me sharing my experiences. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get started. So I wrote down a few ideas, tips and tricks and things that have been helpful to me or things that I know friends of mine have shared or even my clients have shared that have made their life easier, because the idea is to have quality of life, somehow making life easier for you to manage. And when you have a chronic illness, it can be challenging. I have Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. We've talked about it in previous videos. You can go down in my list and see those. But I also have a few others that fall under the umbrella and come along with Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. And again, I've talked about all of those in previous videos. I usually try to link those down below so that you can find them in the description if you want to kind of travel around the channel and see some other content. Feel free to do that. Okay, so the first tip I want to talk about is when you have bad days, how do you manage? Before you can manage bad days when you're in higher education, you definitely want to start with getting accommodations from the disability office. What I have done is get a note from my doctor explaining what my accommodations are that I need or what the needs are that need to be met. I don't know that that is required by any means. There are loads of videos on YouTube that other people are speaking very knowledgeably about accommodations. So that would require me to do a little bit more research before I could speak to that. But I generally get a letter from my doctor and then I take it to the disability office to gain my accommodations. Oftentimes, in my experience, the first letter I get back for accommodations is not appropriate for me. It is the bare minimum and it doesn't address my needs at all. I have rarely found that it's been appropriate. So I generally contact them back. I send an email so that I have proof that I have been communicating. I send an email and then I say these things don't fit the parameters of my needs, not even on the most basic level. Here are the things that need to be adjusted, and kind of have a dialogue back and forth. If the disability office isn't understanding, or if you're not connecting well, then a phone call may be appropriate. But I would suggest having some type of notation ability to note that, and then follow that call back up with an email to the person you spoke with, identifying what was said on the phone and clarifying, such as, "Dear so-and-so, we spoke on the phone today at 2 p.m. and this is what we discussed," and outline that. Then note on there, you stated that you would be doing the following, and note those things. And you may even remark on there, and I stated, these are the things I need done, or the needs that I need met. And then, so you document all of that, and then send that back in so that there is a paper trail. I have learned, if I have learned nothing else from the medical system and academic systems, is a paper trail is so important, because later if something goes wrong, you can say, well, here are the documentation remarks about such and such, and now nobody can say that I didn't say it, or I didn't do it, or I didn't follow up, or whatever. And I found that to be most helpful. you can take it or leave it, but that's what has worked for me, and I keep those things until I'm finished with school. Also, I'm in the end of my dissertation process, or maybe more the end of the middle and the beginning of the end. I do sometimes need extensions for things because of bad flare days or illness or whatever goes on. And my professors generally have been quite helpful to manage that. Not all of them all the time. I have had some that they are maliciously compliant, if you will, and they go by every little letter on my accommodations letter, and it's not usually very helpful. I have found when I communicate to my instructors or professors, a lot of times they go beyond the letter. They don't want the letter. They're like, I don't care about the letter. Just tell me what you need. How can I be helpful? And if only all professors were that way, that would make life so much easier for all of us, but they're not. And we have those that like to be maliciously compliant, so we have to take copious amounts of notes and keep documentation of everything. I have a medical binder and I have an academic binder as far as like correspondences, and I'm a little bit over organized maybe, but I like to keep all of those things in binders and label them and date them and so forth. I have had to use them, so it has come in handy. Now the next thought, I'm going to go back to what I originally started saying before accommodations, is that I try to have worked ahead in case I have a bad day. So I try to work ahead and stay on top of things. When I have a bad day, I can, especially right now during the pandemic, things are so much more readily available online, and I can do a lot from bed. So if I'm in bed, then I'm trying to find little ways that I can do something even though I feel really bad or I'm not having a good day. I look for ways to be productive so that I don't get far behind. And then when I have a good day again, if I'm having an exceptionally good day, I do make an effort and take the time to work ahead as much and as well as I can, so that if I do have a bad day, I'm not behind. Because if you get behind, then you're stressed out. And if you're stressed out, then that exacerbates things and you have more bad days. So it's not very helpful. A few other things regarding working from bed. Something I have found quite helpful is the speak to text option on, say, my phone, my iPad, or even my computer. Word now has a speak to text option, and I have used that. Speak out what you want, the microphone records it and types it into your document, and of course you want to go back and make revisions. But if you're having brain fog and your hands are working slower than your brain, or your brain is not really making much sense of things, then it's helpful to use the speak to text option and not get behind it again there. You can stay on top of things. If you're on campus, I have found when I have been on campus, I usually try to go places early so that it allows me extra time to get to class. Maybe I'm struggling mobility-wise or energy-wise or cardiac or respiratory or circulatory or whatever the thing that's causing me a struggle that day. I try to allow extra time coming into class so that I'm not walking in late and disrupting things, even if I get there early, but it's more helpful for me. I don't feel as stressed out and I feel more prepared for class if I am arriving a bit early. It doesn't always feel necessarily that comfortable, because oftentimes I have found myself sitting in class, no one else except the professor, and it's super awkward, but that definitely works to kind of slow down that stress response of I need to hurry up and get there. Another thing that I have found really helpful is kind of having a tactical police organizer is kind of what I found online, but it suited my needs better because it had more pockets. It wasn't just an open cube. They have a lot of different options online, but I got on Amazon and I looked for a tactical one because it had lots of pockets and I'm able to kind of prepare. I have an extra sweater in my vehicle. Sometimes I have extra socks or a pair of gloves. I carry hot hands and put those in that organizer, and I have a thing, the organizer sits in my passenger seat so that I can reach it easily. I have snacks, I have extra meds, I have other things that I have thought through that I might need. I carry those cold packs that you snap the thing inside or you pop it on the inside and it gets cold like an ice pack, because sometimes that's necessary. And I try to have everything I can think of ahead of time that I might need in an emergency situation, or even in a just uncomfortable, stressful situation, so that I can comfort myself and do a level of self-care that prevents from having a worse time or creating a bad day or flare the next day. I do look at my schedule in previous years when I am making a schedule for classes. I'm not doing that anymore because I'm in dissertation phase, but previous times during my undergrad, my master's, and my doctoral program, I worked to schedule my classes to where I had breaks in between. I don't do class back to back because that doesn't allow me for any recovery at all. And I have found, even though it drags my day into a bit of a longer school experience, it does allow my body to recover and allows my mind even some rest in between classes, and I'm not rushing, I'm prepared, I have time to sit and breathe, or if I need to go and lay down, or whatever that looks like, whatever my recovery time looks like, and it allows me to have a better quality experience in my educational process. I generally done meal planning for school time and kind of gotten individual boxes. I went through phases where I liked plastic, and then I liked glass, and then I liked Ziplocs, and then I liked whatever, you know, so I had phases where I went through different things and found what helped me at the time. I tend to have lots of little baggies, and I carry a lunch box with me. Even when I go to my office now to see clients, I have a lunch box, and it has little baggies of different snacks, meal stuff, accoutrements for doing your meal, whatever that looks like. I try to work ahead, plan ahead, have extra silverware, extra spoons, extra forks, so forth, so that I have everything I need. Just kind of rewind a little bit. When I was mentioning earlier about talking to my professors about my accommodations, I try to fill them out first. I don't wait very long to talk to them, but I do try to fill them out if they're new to me and I haven't had them before, to know exactly how much information to give them. And I know this is going to sound probably not very nice, and I don't mean it in a mean way, but sometimes I have found there are professors that are very supportive. There are some that don't care as far as my excuses or reasonings for things. It's kind of like, okay, whatever. Not that they don't care about me as a human being, but it's just kind of like, whatever, I'm just here to do my job. And then there are professors who I have run into, some, thankfully not a ton, but I know there are stories out there that are worse than my experiences, where it's almost like, not a vendetta, but a discounting, disqualifying experience, where once they knew I had a disability of some sort, it was almost like, you can't do these things. And not that they worked against me, but they certainly didn't work for me. And it was almost like they would use, well, you can't do this because your disability, or should you really, you know, it was a discouraging experience. I can't think of any phrases at the moment that I would like to share, but I have had discouraging experiences due to lack of support in an active way, if that makes sense. I don't want to be mean, and I certainly don't want to call anybody out. Where we have talked a lot about medical gaslighting, I think even though there's not a word for it that I know of, I do think there is a form of academic gaslighting that is used against marginalized people groups as if they can't do it, and you can do it. It may take you a little extra time. It may take a ton of extra effort and a lot longer of a process, but you can do it if you want to do it. Don't let anyone discourage you. I've had plenty of people attempt to discourage me, and you just have to make up your mind, and it's not easy, and you need a support system and self-care and cheerleaders and a village to get you through it. But they're out there. Your village is out there. It's tough. But if you're staying in the dorm room, I would suggest a heated blanket. I actually, when I was in the dorms, I actually had a heated fitted sheet that went under my actual fitted sheet, and it was wonderful. I wish I still had it, but it only fit my dorm mattress and my apartment mattress just following the dorm. It was quite wonderful, but dorms can be quite cold, they can be uncomfortable and challenging, so a heated blanket is definitely something I found useful. And weighted blanket. I have 2 different kinds of weighted blankets now, and one is just a lap. I use that just for my lap when I'm sitting somewhere, but then I have a bigger one that's like a twin size top. It can go on any bed, right? It can go when you're lounging on the couch or whatever, or in your dorm bed or wherever you might be. A weighted blanket is just as helpful, or maybe helpful in other ways as a heated blanket. If you're staying on campus again or have an apartment off campus, be realistic and figure out what level of honesty or openness you want to share with your roommates. Just as your professors, you're going to be living with people who don't have a perspective or understanding of your experience, and where we make assumptions about people in general. That's kind of the human nature, and it may not be right, but it's kind of what happens. That's going to happen, and you don't want people to get the wrong idea about you because they don't understand. People are going to make assumptions because they're people, and they will not always have it right, but we have to give them tools to be able to understand us if it's at all possible. Another thing, get lots of sleep. Speaking of dorms or apartments, college is fun. University is fun. There are always activities going on, but you have to get plenty of sleep. You know your body, and you know a flare comes when you don't get enough rest and when you're overdoing it. And not getting enough sleep is a great way to crash and burn before the semester's even out. It's going to be hard enough without enough sleep, so do yourself a favor and sleep. Relationships are so important in the academic setting, both with your peers, your underclassmen for later, your upperclassmen for later, and your professors. You want to be able to build relationships that will last a lifetime and will also be supportive for you when you're going through this process, so that you don't feel alone, isolated, not understood, misunderstood, very empty, and like your world is really small. So build relationships. It can be challenging because of bad days and you find yourself stuck in your dorm, but those good days can be used to build your connections with people, and it's gonna help you in the long run. Always have spare med supplies, whether you have medication, extra stuff for people with Ehlers, braces, things like for people who have lung issues or oxygen, extra batteries, loads of extra masks, extra syringes if you use things like insulin or Solu-Cortef, which is the liquid steroid that I take. Whatever it is that you have, your extra medical supplies. So not just pills or your prescriptions, but extra med supplies. You might even have an extra sharps container to keep those from overflowing, and then you having extra sharps that don't work. You want to definitely have a designated place where you stay, whether it's your dorm or an apartment off campus. You want to have a system that makes sense. I love labels. I have things labeled, and I have designated boxes and baskets and things that work for me, and I love to use the label makers. So whatever it is that works for you, be sure that you come up with a plan so that when you're having a bad day, it's harder to think. And if you have a plan and a system and you already have experience with these things, you'll kind of know where they are, and it'll be second nature or muscle memory. When you reach for something or look for something, you'll know exactly where it is. Or people who are helping you will know where it is. You can say it's in the shelf with the label whatever on it, and then they can find it to help you. Speaking of meds or diagnoses, depending on what your diagnostics are, you might even let the EMS service know they're near your campus. Some campuses have their own police department, some do not, but whichever EMS service would be servicing you, then you might let them know. Whoever, if you had an emergency and they had to call 911, whoever would be picking you up in an ambulance to take you to a hospital, you really might want to let them know, hey, I have such and such disease, I am now living here, and I'm going to school here, such as like Addison's. Having Addison's disease, I always let the paramedics, the EMS services near where I'm living, whoever would come when 911 is called, I let them know, so that because there are so few of us, then they have supplies on hand. So that is something that a lot of EMS services will do. Their rigs don't generally carry the steroids like I take, and so they do have that information on file, so that whenever there's an emergency for me, it has saved my life in the past 2 times for sure. It has saved my life. So I am very grateful for our local EMS and their willingness to accommodate my medical needs when I am one person in a large city. One thing, I harp on this, guys, I know, self-care. Be sure that you take time to do something you love. You have lots of studying to do, homework to do, classes to attend. If you join Greek life, you have things to go and do. But you have to have some downtime so that you aren't wearing yourself out. Besides your med therapy, your doctor's appointments, your physical therapy, OT, respiratory therapy, whatever comes up, besides all of that stuff, have something you enjoy doing that resets you, recharges your batteries. Those of you, introverts, have that down quiet time. Extroverts, have that exciting people connection, whatever, vibrant time, so that you are renewed weekly, daily, however often. Make a schedule, stick to it. It will get you through the hard times. It will get you through school. I talked about having extra food in my vehicle and my organizer, having my meals prepared well in the refrigerator so I can just grab things and go, and I don't have to spend a lot of energy every day doing that. You may also have a basket. I have a basket, so whatever works for you when you are unwell but you need to eat, and maybe you're sick on the day you would meal prep. What are you gonna do? You have to have something quick, easy, reachable, usable, something, whatever that is. When I was in my undergrad, I did a lot of Campbell's chicken and stars. I can't really eat it anymore, but it was the kind you pop the lid off, you peel the metal thing back, and then you put the plastic lid back on and put it in the microwave. It was so easy. It was one serving. It was perfect for me. I did a lot of that. I also, in my undergrad, believe it or not, I carried in my bag a spoon and a jar of baby food, the fruit kind. It was like something medley, fruit medley, I think, but it tasted good. I liked it. Whatever. Now they have those pouches with the twist off, and I carry an applesauce in my bag. So you might consider whatever accommodations you can do. It's not, I don't know, maybe they have adult pouches or something where they have something more delicious, like, I don't know what that would be, but so I carry that now in my bag. I'll just give a few more of these. Don't overload your schedule. Even though we talked about doing breaks in between your classes, don't overload yourself. Be reasonable. I know you may want to get out or you're over it at some point, but be reasonable so that you don't overload yourself and cause yourself to decline and have a crisis. Because I'm a fidgeter in class, I say fidgeter, when I'm in pain, I have to move around a lot. So when I'm having good days, I prefer sitting at the front so I can pay attention. But when I'm having bad days, personally, I will sit in the back of class because I may have to stand up. And my professors knew, like, I would stand up and I would be very discreet and quiet, but I would stand at the back of the class, or I might sit and move around a lot. Eventually, I got a honeycomb cushion, which made those plastic desks so much more comfortable on my hips and my back and just everything, my legs. But think about your process in your day. What will make you most comfortable and able to experience this academic journey that you're on? It's not a checklist that you want to just blow through and move on. It's a process, a journey, a growth opportunity, and you want to experience all of those things. You don't want to miss out on it. We have enough with chronic illness that we miss out on. This is not one of those things, because there will be things in college that you aren't going to be able to do because of your health, and you will miss out on things. But do yourself a favor and plan ahead. That's a lot. I have a lot more in my list because there are so many things that I thought of, so many things I wish I had known. Maybe some of these things will be helpful, and maybe you have better ones. Maybe something I have said didn't work for you and you found something even better. Please share it with me so that our community can see it. I know some of you have shared other things on past videos, and it has created an opportunity for others to go, wow, that's a brilliant idea. Thank you so much. And it is very helpful for us to have an exchange and a conversation about these things. I have a lot more. Maybe I'll do a part 2. Let me know if you'd like that. I probably have another 6 or 8 things that I had thought of, and I just kind of stopped writing because there were so many things. But college is hard, university is hard, higher education is hard. Wait, life is hard. So let's make it easier and be kind to ourselves and think ahead, plan ahead, do what we can on our good days so we can ride those waves through the bad days and get on to the other side. I hope you're all well, and thank you for joining me. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.